Explaining football to the friend who's just there for the nachos? Hard. Tailgating from home like a pro with snacks and drinks everyone will love? An easy win. And with Instacart helping deliver the snack time MVPs to your door, you're ready for the game in as fast as 30 minutes. So you never miss a play or lose your seat on the couch or have to go head-to-head for the last chicken wing. Shop game day faves on Instacart and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 grocery orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Other fees and terms apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes in detail.
Welcome back, guys, to Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. This is part 3 of our journey through the story of Tommy by the Who, the 1968 classic that was turned into all sorts of things, into operas and ballets and West End musicals and the movie, of course. Now, quick recapture of the story. Tommy is born at the end of the First World War to a fatherless family because his dad is presumed missing in action. And when his father comes back, finally he has arrived, he's alive, he turns up and sees his wife with her lover, or with the lover. He kills the lover in a fit of rage, and he tells Tommy not to say anything, see anything, he didn't hear anything, he won't do anything. And unfortunately that locks him into a world of darkness and loneliness. All he has in his mind is this sort of strange religious images and pinball as he gets older. His parents, through guilt, try to break this hold that this shock has on him by taking him to prostitutes, by him having drugs injected into him, by having his horrible cousin Kevin try and sort of break him with his bullying. Although that's not implied, I just picked that up in the story as I was reading it, to be fair. And now we've got to the point where he's grown up and his parents have had enough and they're taking him to a doctor. But before then, we have other things to happen. So, are you ready? Come on the amazing journey with me and learn all you should know, okay? And part 2 starts with a small interim track called Do You Think It's All Right? This is Pete Townshend and Roger Daltrey. It's quite upbeat. It's like it's optimism from both parents. I remember hearing this very first version I heard of this that I remember was the one with Oliver Reed singing it. And it's quite grandiose. It's quite it's got sort of it's good interlude to the madness that's about to happen in the next few tracks. The harmonies here are really typical of the Tommy sound, very typical of the Who. It's quite optimistic, actually. I mean, it's a very simple lyric in the opening bit of this one. Let me just get it. Ooh, hang on, sorry, I'm fiddling around. Okay. It's just, all it is do you think it's all right? Do you think it's all right if we leave with Uncle Ernie? And Uncle Ernie is going to be the next, track. Okay? There we are. Sorry, 1 second. My book is all over the place. 1 moment. Sorry about that. As I said last week, the lyric sheet that I've got for this Lambretta, which goes with this fantastic copy of the orchestral version of Tommy, it's pretty old. It was one of my brother's copies, and it's just falling apart a bit. Here we go. says, "Do you think it's all right?" Mother says, "Do you think it's all right to leave the boy with Uncle Ernie?" And then the father says, "Yeah, I think it's all right. Yes, I think it's all right." Very short and sharp track, right? But they then come into one of the most disturbing pieces of music on the album. One of these songs that gave the album a sort of air of nastiness. It was what I think a lot of the Merry Whitehouse Brigade were sort of attacking slightly in it. This is the track called Fiddle About. This is John Entwistle's music. He's singing as well. He wrote it. And for me, it's very, as I said before, as with Cousin Kevin, it's very John. And I don't know whether that's because John's had a rather horrible childhood. I don't know. I mean, I hope not. But it's very much like in the music is in the vein of Boris the Spider. If you know the Who track Boris the Spider, which is actually one of my favourite bass parts to play. Actually, it's just a lovely ascending and descending simple bass line for John. It's very simple. It has a deep underlying seething and bombast to it. I don't know whether I would have left this in. If it was me, genuinely, I probably wouldn't have done. It was very daring for them to do so. I mean, it's very splashy drums from Keith again. Him and John just, they fill the audio soundscape, in such a beautiful way. And the harmonies are very well crafted. And the use of crash cymbals here is quite unsettling in the number. It's very operatic. It's probably the most disliked track on the album by a lot of people. You can tell here that it's got you can tell here that it's got classical training on it. Really has. I mean, it's a very. I've got here written in big red letters Gilbert and Sullivan, and that was what I was trying to remember last week. Remember I said Mikado-esque? Couldn't get the bloody song, the people in my head, and I was sitting having lunch with my darling wife, and I went Gilbert and Sullivan. No, so I went Mikado, and she went Gilbert and Sullivan. I went, fuck, that's it. Anyway, musically, it is quite leering. Musically, it's quite dark. I mean, the lyric is very dark. The concept of this particular song is they leave the boy with Uncle Ernie. Again, like Cousin Kevin, it's a bad move in my part, I think. Because here it is, the lyric here for you. And I am going to express here that this may be unsettling for some people. If that is the case, skip forward 30 seconds, you should be through it. Uncle Ernie, I'm your uncle. It's like, and it's very vaudeville almost, musical. Because I'm your wicked Uncle Ernie. I'm glad you won't see or hear me as I fiddle about. Your mother left me here to mind you. Now I'm doing what I want to. Fiddling about. Down with the bedclothes, up with the nightshirt. Fiddle about. You shouldn't shout as I fiddle about. Come on, Tommy, show me your little vest. Fiddle about, fiddle. And it ends fiddle. It's really, as I said, it's the song, I think, along with Cousin Kevin, that made people feel a little bit, not the messianic images. I mean, that was very much the case with the 60s, like Hair and all that sort of thing. But it was more these two numbers, for me anyway, that sort of cause it to be a difficult listen sometimes. And then we move into the one song on this album that every person listening to this podcast would at one time heard it inadvertently or advertently, Pinball Wizard. It's Roger Daltrey of Pete Townshend on the bridge. It's the first real rock and roll song on the album. It's the first what I would call single worthy. It's a genuine rock song. The opening refrain is returning here again. We had it at the beginning of the album with that lovely sort of power chord strum. It's very clean and clear. The guitar is mixed in. It's played lovely on the right side. You get echoes. So you're hearing it's on the left side. You hear the guitar being played, and on the right side you get Sorry, on the right side you get the guitar playing. On the left side you get the echo. It's really clever. If you listen to it through headphones, and I recommend it, particularly good headphones, you will hear this dynamism that's, I think, a lost art in stereo mixing these days, because we're so used to it. I mean, I'd point you to my episode number 125, is Stereo Delta Just Misunderstood, from a couple of years back. And yeah, you listen to that, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about. But it's a beautiful mix. It's fantastic. Before the power chords come in, it's quite clean. It's quite dramatic. It's bringing your heart rate up. And then it slams into the left ear. Roger's vocal is the most iconic on this. Donato fills the sound with the upper, like, that bass parts. He feels it so dramatic. He's heavy. He fills in those spots that Keith doesn't hit. It's just fantastic. Everyone knows the song, right? The call and response is beautiful. It's just quite simply, it makes you smile. I think it's oddly out of place on the album, after going back to it regularly now. I mean, listening to the song out of context, it's, I don't know, it just, we'll talk about that at the end. I've got some theories I want to talk about at the end of this episode, right at the end. So do come back. Stay with me, because I'm going to come back. Stay with me, because I've got some things I want to talk about that irk me slightly about the album. Okay. Anyway, this is basically a young boy singing, right? In the movie, it's what's his name? It's Elton John, right? So everyone knows that in the movie clip. Okay. Ever since I was a young boy, I've played the silver ball. From Soho down to Brighton, I must have played them all. But I ain't seen nothing like him in any amusement hall. That deaf, dumb and blind kid sure plays a mean pinball. Like, it's iconic. I don't have to really go for this too much, right? I like he stands like a statue, becomes part of the machine, feeling all the bumpers, always playing clean. He plays by intuition. The digit counters fall. The deaf, dumb and blind kid sure plays a mean pinball. And then that fantastic chorus, he's a pinball wizard, there has to be a twist. He's a pinball wizard, he's got such a supple wrist. I remember I'm of an age, I'm sure a lot of you out there are of an age, where we would go and play pinball before arcades, before computer games, you know, like we would go to particularly the chip shop. I go to the Chippy down on the end in West End and Broadway with my brother on a Friday night to get the one takeaway we allowed a week, which was on Friday, and there was always a bit of change left over, and me and him he was very good. We played the pinball in the chip shop while we were waiting for the chips to be done. It was he was really, really good. He always said he wanted to buy one. We never got round to doing it. We should have done. I want the Iron Maiden one, just telling you that now. I love the way it says, he got no distractions, can't hit no buzzers and bells, plays by sense of smell, don't see the lights are flashing, plays by sense of smell, always has a replay, never tilts at all. Now that, for those that don't know what that means, is that you used to cheat. You could cheat by lifting the table up slightly so the ball would not go down, right, into the out of play. Later machines, they were sort of screwed to the floor. But that's what you could do. That's what tilting is, right? Even on my usual table, he can beat my best. He disciples lead him in, and he just does the rest. So what it's saying is that he's already got disciples, okay? That people are already following him, and we'll get back to that at the end of this episode, and we'll talk about that. This is the one main point that irks me slightly, but it's a classic song. It is what it is, right? Hard to really discuss that one anymore. It's just iconic. It's on all of their best of albums. It's one of those songs everyone remembers them by, you know. And you know, I'm a Boy, Pinball Wizard, you know, Kids Are All Right, all that stuff. Everyone knows the Kids Are All Right, which is a live album. No, it's a compilation album. Yeah. Am I right? I'm probably wrong. Sorry. I'm probably very wrong. I didn't research that. I just went off the top of my head. Look, so we moved from then to... Oh, also, right, it said here, he does... I said also with Pinball Wizard, sorry, that Keith feels he's most restrained, and that's because he's most rock and roll. He's really in a solid traditional rock and roll beat here, and Jennifer's bass under the bridge is pure, deep wonderfulness. I've written there. Wow. I don't know if that's really, is that, do you like that when I say that, listeners? Deep wonderfulness? I don't know. That's how it comes to me, anyway. Then we move into a small track called There's a Doctor. Okay. It's like a small interlude here. Now, this is Pete Townshend, John Entwistle, and Roger Daltrey on here. And this is when they're taking him to a traditional doctor. They think they found a doctor that may help. Back from the rock and roll pinball to this operatic feeling of Gilbert and Sullivan. Keith is back with this deep timpani like drums here. So it's a small piece. It's quite operatic. It's rolling. Doesn't last for very long. Let me get the lyric for you. There we go. It says, "There's a man I've found who could bring us all joy. There's a doctor I've found who can cure the boy." And then, there's a nice harmony there with all three of them. "A doctor I've found that can cure the boy. We can see him tomorrow. He lives in town. We can see him tomorrow." It feels optimistic. It feels like, hey, the parents have found someone. Finally, Tommy's going to be cured, right? He's going to be all right. We're going to fix him. And then we go to the mirror. Here, the whole feeling of the album changes for me. Up until this point, there's been some dark bits. I think 90% of it's quite dark. It's quite unhappy, quite... Apart from the oddness of Pinball Wizard, it's quite a sad story. And musically, it feels a bit sad. But here it lifts tonally in the mood, and the album starts to get a little more rock and rolly. It comes more straight off the bat now. It starts to feel lifted. You'll notice once the lyric happens, right? And it's Tommy's motif is back. Keith's steady beat here keeps you on the edge like a rock opera. Okay, it's in full flow here. The chorus refrain is very angelic, and we start to go on this messianic journey with Tommy. The music is taken over by Keith here and John. It really is taken over by these two. And at 2 minutes 40 into the song, we get Tommy's rebirth. We get a staggering. It goes on his staggering adventure. It's a piece of rock. It's the motif is back. It's a staggering piece of rock I've written. Sorry, addictive, and it's got this wonderful motif back. It has a 60s feel that is timeless, but at the same time, held back in that era. So this is where the album starts to lift. I really feel this is where you start to feel better in the story. So get the lyrics for it. Here we go. It seems to me completely unreceptive, and you can. This is now. It's a really lovely sort of rolling timpani sound underneath here. The tests I give him show no sense at all. His eyes react to light that dials detect it. He hears but cannot answer to your call. So what the doctor is saying is, there's nothing wrong with him. There is nothing wrong with him. He just won't react. And then Tommy's inside voice. See me, feel me, touch me, heal me. With that lovely, angelic, Roger at his best. Here, like Roger's got a beautiful voice, always had a beautiful voice. I mean, he can scream out a note, but he's got such a subtle tone to him. Doctor goes, "There's no chance, no untried operation. All lies within him and none with me. Imagine, though, the shock from isolation when he suddenly can hear and speak and see." And then Tommy goes back to his refrain: "See me, feel me, touch me, heal me." The doctor comes back in. His eyes can see, his ears can hear, his lips speak. All the time the needles flick and rock. No machine can give him that kind of stimulation needed to remove his inner block. Right, so he's saying that it's there. I just don't know. It's a psychological thing. I can't do anything about it. So then he says, "Go to the mirror, boy. Go to the mirror." So they're taking him to the mirror. Because I said before, he's an obsession with mirrors, looking in the mirror at himself. The father says, "I often wonder what he is feeling. Has he ever heard a word I've said? Look at him in the mirror, dreaming. What happened in his head? What's happening in his head?" Tommy says, this is Tommy. Listening to you, this is a brilliant piece of a great. This could be a single itself. Listening to you, I get the music. Gazing at you, I get the heat. Following you, I climb the mountain. I get excitement at your feet. So basically, what he's saying is that he is worshipping himself in the mirror. Right behind you, I see the millions. On you, I see the glory. From you, I get the opinions. From you, I get the story. And then the father says, what is happening in his head? Oh, I wish I knew. I wish I knew. All right. So it's quite one of my favorite tracks on the album, along with Christmas. One of my favorite tracks on the album because it's very nuanced. It's got a lot going on. You know, it's talking about the doctor saying, "Look, it's not a medical thing." This is the '60s, remember? So they wouldn't have thought about psychologists and psychoanalysis. It would have just been, yeah, I can't do anything with a pill. I can't do anything with a machine. Therefore, it's up to him to fix himself. And the dad's saying, wonder what he's thinking of. And Tommy's thinking about fix me, heal me, but also I'm God, basically. Follow me. Right. And then we've got Tommy, Can You Hear Me? And this is Pete Townshend and Roger Daltrey, following on from almost seamlessly from the previous track. Now, I've realised it's 20 minutes in. Oh, dearie, we've done it again. So, we'll have a rest. I'll reheat my tea. We'll listen to some ads, and we'll get back and we'll see what Tommy, Can You Hear Me means on part 2. Sorry to tease you, but I've got to have a rest. Bye for now. Welcome back to part 2. I teased you at the end of part 1, didn't I, with Tommy, Can You Hear Me? So as I said, this is Pete Townshend and Roger Daltrey, okay? Following on from almost seamlessly from the previous track, like as if they're in the same doctor's surgery, I'd imagine, we get this walking bass line from John, and I've always loved the walking bass line. He does them very, very well. And some very nice clean guitar here in both ears. It feels you're surrounded by the harmonies in this. It's of the highest order. And then it fades out to darkness at the end. It's quite a dramatic end musically. But let's get the lyric for you. Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy, can you hear me? Mother says, Tommy, can you see me? Can I help to cheer you? Oh, Tommy, Tommy, Tommy. It's really lovely. It's very, again, it's very operatic, okay? Hence it's a rock opera, I suppose. Then, Tommy, can you hear me? Can you feel me? Mother says, Tommy, can I help you? Can I cheer you up? Oh, Tommy. She's really sort of just like, come on, Tommy, what can I do? What can I do? I don't know what to do. And this is where it all changes. Listeners, this is where it all becomes a completely different album for me, different story, different feel. Smash the Mirror. This is Roger Daltrey here. So this is, in the story, they smash the mirror in frustration that Tommy is looking in all the time. And break his gaze, basically. It's a real R&B masterclass I've written here. It's got a very Tamala Motown sound. If you don't know what Tamala Motown is, go and have a look. Have a listen. I'm sure you, all listeners to this, if you listen to music, will know what Tamala Motown is. If not, have a listen. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's in its very, very DNA. It's got quite the Doors, Mamas and Papas, very 60s, very psychedelic-y kind of sound. Has these really sensitive harmonies while John keeps that single bass line going. Keith, as is again in the background, just doing his thing. And at 1:29, we get some first real sound effects on the record when the mirror is broken. And the story changes then, gentlemen. The story changes. Wow. Let's see what says Smash the Mirror. The lyric. It's a very small piece of music, that one, by the way. There we go. Where are we? Okay, it says here, well, do you answer my call with even a nod or a twitch, but your gaze at your own reflection? You don't seem to see me, but I think you see yourself. How can the mirror affect you? Can you hear me, or do I surmise that you fear me? Can you feel my temper rise, rise, rise? Do you hear or fear, or do I smash the mirror? Do I hear or fear you, or do I smash the mirror? And then they smash the mirror, and all things change. So she's just had enough. There's not anything physically wrong with him. He can just snap out of it, or how what she thinks. She's taking it personally. And to be honest with you, I would as well. Wouldn't you? If you know there's nothing wrong with you, but you've just killed, you've just smashed, you've just spent your whole life ignoring your family because of this thing. It's quite, upsetting, I'd imagine. Then we move to, now here's where this differs on a lot of albums. So this part of the album is in a different playing order and all sorts of different versions of it. But I'm going to go with the version that was released in '68. This is the version I'm going to go with, okay? So if you're listening to the movie soundtrack or even this one here I've got here with the orchestrated version, it's in a different way around. But we go Sensation is the next track. And it's that motif is back again with light and even with John's French horn again. It's Pete Townshend vocals. He's got a lovely falsetto voice here, actually lays down in the album. It's quite interesting vocal tone here. It's a really 60s sounds. The drums are constantly in the background. John is very dynamic on the bass. The guitar is clean in the chorus, changes in the key at 1:14 to bring the heightened sense of excitement into the song, and then it releases out to a fade out, which is quite exciting actually. And I'll get you the lyric for Sensation. Just going to flick through because this is in a different order to the album, but I'm using the Lembretta for it. Okay, here we go. I'm overwhelmed as I approach you. Make your lungs hold breath inside. Lovers break caresses for me. Love enhanced when I've gone by. You feel me coming, a new vibration, far from afar. From afar you'll see me, I'm a sensation. They worship me and all I touch. Hazy-eyed, they catch my glance. Pleasant shudders shake their senses. My warm momentum throws their stance. You feel me coming, my new vibration. From afar you'll see me, I'm a sensation. Send your troubles dancing. I know the answer. I'm coming, I'm a sensation. And then Tommy says, I leave a trail of rooted people, mesmerized by just the sight. The few I touched now are disciples. Love as one. I am the light. I am the light. So, as I said, this messianic feel that comes off the back of that. They smash the mirror and suddenly, people are in awe of this person, right? And it's got that kind of weird, this is when it starts to get a little bit kind of LSD, if you know what I mean. Then we get to Miracle Cure. This is Pete Townshend and Roger Daltrey. It's quite a short one. Small musical interlude to move the story on. It just adds, it just like when, a little bit of speed to the story. Just, yeah, it has a sort of feel like when we were kids. When we were kids, adverts, read all about it, extra, extra. Those living in the UK, or from the UK, my generation, will remember this. The way the adverts used to shout at you like that. They weren't as interestingly visual, but they were more kind of to the point. And Miracle Cure, here we go. The news vendor says, extra, extra, read all about it. Pinball Wizard and a Miracle Cure. Extra, extra, read all about it. Very straightforward, right? It's not really a great long lyric to go on about, but it's just the way it brings the story in. This is where we've gone from sort of the story gets a bit wishy-washy and a bit not sure where it's going, and then suddenly we go back to to the storyline. Now we move on to Sally Simpson. Sally Simpson, right? Wow. This track feels open. It almost feels that the breeze is in. It's opening with a very stylized piano part played by Pete Townshend. I've written here honky tonk and underlined it. Sort of pub piano groove, like my family from the East End, or when I grew up in London, where we'd often go, you hear piano player at the pub, and it was that sort of simple, uncomplicated blues bastardization, I'd like to say, or jazz bastardization, honky tonk sound. Keith is on the left hand side this time. John is on the right, and the middle is filled by Pete's keys and guitar. It's upbeat. It's got a gospel feel to it. You can see the crowd singing this one along. It's the most wordy on the album, I think. It's got a very Beatles-like ending to it. It sounds like later Beatles ending to it. I'll get the lyrics for you. Okay. Yeah, it does something like off of it could almost be off of Sgt. Pepper, actually. So the narrator is singing, outside the house, Mr. Simpson announced that Sally couldn't go to the meeting. He went on cleaning his blue Rolls Royce, and she ran inside a weeping. She got to her room, and a tear splashed the picture of the new Messiah. She picked up a book of her father's life and threw it on the fire. She knew from the start, deep down in her heart, that she and Tommy were worlds apart. But her mother said, never mind, your part is to be what you'll be. Lovely, very Beatlesque. The theme of the sermon was, come on unto me, love will find a way. So Sally decided to ignore her dad and sneak out anyway. She spent the afternoon getting ready, decided she'd try to touch him. Maybe he'd see that she was free and talk to her on Sunday. She knew from the start, deep down in her heart, that she and Tommy were worlds apart. But mother said, never mind, your part is to be what you'll be. She arrived at 6 and the place was swinging to gospel music by 9. Group after group appeared on the stage and Sally just sat there crying. She bit her nails, looking pretty as a picture, right in the very front row. And then when the DJ wearing a blazer with a badge ran out and said, here we go, the crowd went crazy as Tommy hit the stage, and Sally got her lost as the police bossed the crowd and back in rage. Soon the atmosphere was cooler as Tommy gave a lesson. Sally just had to let him know she loved him and leapt up on the rostrum. She ran across the stage to the spotlight figure and touched him on the face. Tommy roared around as an ununiformed man threw her off the stage. She knew from the start, deep down in her heart, that she and Tommy were worlds apart. But her mother said, never mind your part, you'll be who's to be what you'll be. Her cheek hit a chair and blood trickled down, mingling with her tears. Oh, sorry. Tommy carried on preaching and his voice filled Sally's ears. She caught his eyes. She had to try. He couldn't see through the lights. Her face was gashed. The ambulance men had to carry her out of the night. The crowd went crazy as Tommy left the stage. Little Sally was lost for the price of a touch and a gash across her face. 16 stitches put her right. Her daddy said, don't say I didn't warn you. Sally got married to a rock musician she met in California. Tommy always talks about that day. The disciples all went wild. Sally still cries a scar. Sally still carries a scar on her cheek to remind her of her smile. She knew from the start, deep down in her heart, that she and Tommy were worlds apart. And the mother said, never mind, you'll be who you'll be. Like, it's quite wordy. Sorry if you're listening to that. I love the lyric on that song. Basically, that sums up the whole of the 60s and 70s in one nutshell, doesn't it? Teenage girls, it wasn't always teenage girls, but mainly teenage girls, in awe of these godlike musicians, and then really being their bubble being burst, and just becoming a nightmare. And also, she clearly was a groupie. She married a rock and roll star and lived in California. So, good on her. But it has a real Beatles feel. It's got a lovely... It's one of the... Because it's the wordiest track on the album, I really enjoy it because you can really get yourself into the lyric of it. The music behind it is supreme, as the whole album is really. And then on the album here, we move into the next track, I'm Free. This is a Roger Daltrey track. Here, musically, it feels a lot like old Who, right? It's got crescendos in it. The left ear guitar, the right ear piano, panned across Roger Daltrey's vocals, driven by Keith and John as usual. Pete's guitar acoustic has his signature ascending and descending sounds that he likes to do with a pinball motif behind. And at 2 minutes 16, I have some controversy here in my head at 2 minutes 16. Okay, I reached out to John about this, my good friend John, who is a Patreon and listens to the show every week. I think this sounds like a Beatles track, and it sounds like part of a Beatles track it sounds like the sound effect that the Beatles used, and yeah, I'll let you listen to it. I'm going to tell you what it is, and I'll let you listen to it. There's an audio trick on Tomorrow Never Knows, and I think that's from Revolver, I think. And it has this sort of very 60s reverb, echoey sound. And honestly, I don't know why, but when I listen to that little bit at that time, from that point onwards, it sounds like Tomorrow Never Knows. So I don't know, as I said, whether I'm just imagining it or not. I'm not quite sure. I'm really not quite sure. But, as I said, Revolver, yes, is what it's on, Revolver. It's again a really good rock and roll song. It moves along, it's fast, it's enjoyable. Along with Pinball Wizard, it's one of the most acceptable, because I think it was a single, released as a single. A little bit fact here: Keith could not perform the breakdown on the drums on this song for some reason, not the way that Pete and John liked it. So John and Pete played it on the album, recorded it on the album, and live. So that Keith knew when to come in, which is interesting from a drummer of his experience and quality. They would do big silly steps on stage. So if you've watched the Who live, the Tommy live recordings from the 70s, and you'll see them bouncing around the stage like big giant steps, him and John and Pete, is because they're trying to bring Keith into time. It's quite interesting, isn't it? I think. And then we come on to Welcome. All right. So Welcome is, we're coming to the end of this album, right? We are getting there, right? We're getting there. It's getting now a little bit more messianic. If you're drinking every time I say that, you'll be drunk by now. It's getting a little bit more feverish, a little bit more up-tempoed, a little bit more angelic in sound, I think, actually, right? This is a song with Roger Daltrey and Pete Townshend, and John Insull does the spoken word part on it. There's only a tiny spoken word part on it, but there's a little bit on there. Yeah, it's got a gentleness to it. It's got a nice sway. Almost feels like a protest song, actually. Very soft. Keith drums in the left ear. It's pointedly persuasive. At 144 in the song, the tempo ups and it changes to it, and there's a nice harmonica feel on it. And I think that's by Pete Townshend. Again, it feels quite feverish. It's pointed, and Tommy is quite. It's quite the way that he's bringing people into the fold in here is quite scary, I feel, actually. But I'll give you the lyric on it. Okay. Tommy says, "Come to my house, be one of the comfortable people. Come to this house, we're drinking all night, keep never sleeping." See, so what I'm saying is when Tommy's quite scary, he's bringing people, he wants people to come in. He's trying to get more, it's very Christian-like, or organised religion, I should say, but more Christianity. Wants people to come and join him on his Jesus-like journey. Again, what's causing this album to be a lot of problems in the UK in the 60s, which was still quite a Christian country then. Milkmen come in, And you, baker, little old lady, welcome. And you, shoemaker, come into this house, Come to the house, be one of us. Make this your home house, be one of us. You can help to collect some more people in. So he's saying, like the ethos of Christianity, 1 + 1 + 2 + 2 + 4 + 8 and so on. Go and get more people in. Spread the word. Bring them here. As long as the man who's wearing a carnation, bring every single person from Victoria Station, go into the hospital, bring nurses and patients. Everybody go home and fetch their relations. Come to this house. Be one of the comfortable people. Lovely bright home. We're drinking all night, never sleeping. No, that's not drinking alcohol. That would be like tea and coffee, and I'm sure. Excuse me, sir. There's more. Then this is when John Entwistle comes in. Excuse me, sir. There's more at the door, and it's such a theatrical response. There's more at the door. There's more at the door. There's more at the door. We need more room. Build an extension, a colourful place. Spare no expense. Come to this house. Be one of us. Make this your house. Be one of us. Come to this house. Welcome, welcome. So, he's now broken out. He's got this messianic following. He's trying to bring more people. This sensation, this pinball wizard who can see and hear and speak, has lots to say. So the next track on the album, it's look, I've written here as well. Sorry, it's quite complex. It has strange feelings for me. The ending is quite dramatic and quite classical. It's an odd one. I've written in red letters there. Okay, so then we move to Tommy's Holiday Camp. Now, I believe this one was put on the album at the behest of Keith Moon. Keith Moon does play his part because he plays Ernie in the movie and is Ernie again here on the album. It's Pete Townshend singing. It's got a real fairground organolian sound to it, roll up, come in, come on. He's like, basically, he's like a shill. He's selling liquid that is basically just like sugar and water, but making it out to be medicine, right? It's a very 60s holiday camp sound. We used to, like back in the 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s, I think they probably still do in some places. People in England who worked very, very hard, had very little money, had very little time off. They were given like 2 weeks every year, and they would go to holiday camps. Now these holiday camps were relatively good because you'd paid mum and dad would pay one price, and in that price, the alcohol at the bar was covered, the food was covered. There were competitions. There were fun things for the kids to do. Mum and dad could lie near the pool. They could go to the beach. Mainly, it would stay within the camp. You had red jackets and yellow jackets. A lot of famous comedians have come out from that. Have been red jackets and yellow jackets. There's a TV series called Heidi High, which I highly recommend you watching. It is quite 80s, but you'll love it, and that's based around the holiday camp idea. It's got a real Benny Hill, Dick Emery, very, very saucy naughty postcard humour that we in the English have loved for many years. It's got a very dark ending. When he says welcome at the end, it's quite, it's quite off-putting, to be with you. Okay. It says, "Good morning, campers," says Uncle Ernie. It says, "I'm your Uncle Ernie, and I welcome you to Tommy's Holiday Camp." It's sort of real bouncy, over-the-top sound. "When you come to Tommy's, the holidays forever. The camp with a difference. Never mind the weather. When you come to Tommy's, the holidays forever." And then, welcome. It's quite dark, right? Quite dark. And then we move to "We're Not Going to Take It." This is Roger Daltrey, Pete Townshend, and John Entwistle. The motive is back. Hey, the Tommy motive is back. Keith steps up a gear again in the left channel. John on the right, and Roger Daltrey front center. Angelic harmonies, and not. And I'm not going to take I'm not going to take it in the chorus. It's a real Who sound. It's a real Who youth vibe, back to their 60s, early 60s sound. It's quite musical. It's driving. It's bold. It's sing along. It's absurd. And then there's sort of, there's two people in the music. There's the Tommy and there's the crowd. In the crowd piece, piano underlines the organ sound, and as the key and Keith is the master of that, like with the drums underneath it, and John is just showing off. Here I've written, just showing off, and then with the to and throw in the lyric of Tommy, this song. So we're not going to take it. It says here, welcome to the camp. This is Tommy. I guess you all know why you're here. My name is Tom, and I became aware this year. If you want to follow me, you've got to play pinball. Put in your earplugs, put on your shades. You know what to do with the cork. It's quite bouncy. Hey, you getting drunk? So sorry, you got sussed. Hey, you smoking, Mother Nature? This is a bust. He hung up on old Mr. Normal. Don't try to gain my trust, because you ain't going to follow me any of those ways, although you think you must. So basically what he's saying is, look, be pure. Christian, his version of Christianity, right? He doesn't want any of that filth in the body. And of course, these kids, these teenagers, they don't want to be told not to have a drink, not to have a smoke. They're not told to change their ways so quickly. They don't like it. They like it. They've come along to think this is going to be fun, and it turns out to be a right drag, man, if you know what I mean. And then the chorus is, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it. We never did and never will. We don't have to take it. Going to break it. Going to shake it. Let's forget it. Better still. So they're going to just leave. They're going to break everything up, smash it all up and leave, right? Tommy says, now you can hear me. Your ears are truly sealed. No, so now you can't hear me. Your ears are truly sealed. You can't speak either because your mouth is filled. You can't see nothing. The pinball completes the scene. Here comes Uncle Ernie to guide you to your very own machine. So even though these kids are saying we're not going to do it, he's ignoring all that. He's just saying, no, come on. Off we go. We're going to put you into my life for a little period of time and see how you feel once you come out of it. And they say they're not going to take it anymore. Don't want no religion as far as we can tell. We ain't going to take you, never did, never will. We're not going to take you, we forsake you, going to rape you. It's a horrible lyric. Let's forget you, better still. We forsake you, going to rape you. Let's forget you, better still. So they've gone to this holiday camp thinking they're going to, it's going to be all pinballs fun, and then it's religion, and they don't want the religion. They don't want to be told to follow a path of purity. And then it goes into See Me, Feel Me. But that was a single. We're not going to go into that. That's a single that went on, that was not released with the album. Okay? It was later on. So they've done that. They've smashed it. They've broken the mirror. They've broken out. Right? They don't want to know anymore. They've gone. That's it. End of the album. So poor Tommy, who was trapped in a life of darkness and of sadness and of self-exile because of what he saw, the shock that happened, and all the things that happened to him. All that stuff, all the stuff that happened, and then he finally breaks free, finally sees the light, right, people? Yeah, all that darkness, all that self-imposed issues, and then he suddenly breaks free, and his messianic images and his self-belief that he is the new Messiah comes flushing through. But what's really fascinating about it is I think that what Pete was really talking about was the selling religion by the pound, right? There's a Genesis quote for you. Misquote. Where they taking him to a holiday camp. He was saying, come to my house. As Jesus says, be one of my, you come to my house. Which is metaphorical, not literal. And so, his parents and Uncle Ernie, and they want to make money out of it. Suddenly, he's doing these sort of, people want to see him and touch him, and he's talking on stage, and he's telling people his life story. And they want, let's make it into a holiday camp. Let's make people pay money to have self-deprivation, to be deprived of sight, sound, and voice. And then when we take out the corks, plug their ears and take off their masks, they will be born again. That's like Tommy, which is obviously it doesn't work, and it's a really good satire on and point a finger at the way that modern religions are monetized. It's very, very on point, and you can see why they didn't like it in the 60s, particularly puritanical people were like, hang on, this is a bit too close to the truth, to be honest with you. You know, you only have to look at American churches. No disrespect to American churches, people that are listening. But, you know, you only have to look at them. We have them here in Australia as well, where there are money machines. There are ATMs, you know, outside the churches, inside the churches, so we can give, you know, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, that's a different story. I'm not going to go down there. I don't want to get myself cancelled, if you know what I mean. But I said earlier on that I think there was a slight error in this album, and I think that the Who have in other versions of it changed this. Pinball Wizard is in the wrong spot for me. Okay, why is it coming before the mirror is smashed? How is he a pinball wizard? How has he grown up? And there's no story to tell you how he became a pinball wizard. For me, it should be like it just is a bit disjointed. You know, like if you go to let's get the track list up here. Let me get my track list. Excuse me. I made like 15 bloody notes on this thing. Crazy how many notes I made on this. Hang on. It was so much fun doing. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah. So, you know, do you think he's all right? Fiddle about. And then Pinball Wizard. Then there's a doctor and go to the mirror. I think that Pinball Wizard is probably it. I can see where it's sitting there, but it just seems incongruous. Like suddenly, you know, the pinball was mentioned earlier on in the album, but very, very, very fleetingly, and then suddenly we're all there to believe that he's this guy that people are following and watching all up and down the country playing pinball. Well, it's almost like two stories mixed together. But hey, I'm not going to knock it. It's the only thing that I feel was in the, you know, slightly in the wrong section. It's in the wrong area. But after that, I do love the way it goes from dark to light, and then adds some dark tinges in the light part. But it is ostensibly a pretty interesting story of rebirth and of born again Christianity, almost really, of seeing the light and then realizing that the light isn't quite what you want it to be. And the sort of inhumanity of man against man with Ernie and Kevin, and the use of stimulants and abuse to stimulate the mind, quack doctors don't want to help, and the psychology of shock from the violence that he witnessed as a young boy. It's a really deep album, and I think we miss it a lot of the times when people listen to Tommy. You might go straight through it, right, and just listen to track after track and enjoy it as you're walking around, doing the housework, in the office, going for a run, whatever you're doing, and you miss out the beautiful stereo mix in this album. I mean, deep down, it's an incredibly interesting stereo mix, one of the best of the 60s in my opinion, and a really somewhat misguided and semi-bloated story. I mean, they were going to make a second one, as I said, the Lighthouse Project, which would have probably given more body to this story. But it was sort of it just didn't happen. I mean, the Who went on to make Quadrophenia, which is another prog album, another concept album, much more straightforward. I didn't want to talk about that one because that one is a bit more easier to get your head around, but Tommy is still an enigma. I mean, I've listened to this album since I was probably 10 or 11, even probably younger. And I still, after these 3 weeks of study and of re-listening and of thought, I still find that I'm finding different things in it. And I hope that's the same with you. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know it was 3 weeks of, I couldn't do it in 1 or 2. So I'm really, really thankful that you have let me do this. I mean, it's my show. I can do what I want, I suppose, but you listened. That was the key thing. Now, before I go, please do like and subscribe, flick up and give me a star rating on Spotify. Go to Apple, give me a rating there, or wherever you get your podcasts. Do come and join my Patreon, become one of the roadies. It's only $2 a month, and now you get ad-free episodes. You get a load of videos that are unavailable to normal listeners of the show. So, hey, it also helps me keep the lights on, the decks turning, the spinning, and the tapes turning, and the bills paid, if you know what I mean. That's enough for me. Keep safe. Thank you very much for letting me go through this journey through Tommy. I really loved it, and I hope you did too. Bye for now.
Be ready no matter what the temperature with Crop Metcalf's $99 heating and cooling system check. Call 1-800-GO-CROP or visit cropmetcalf.com.
Crop Metcalf is the one with 5 stars.
Crop Metcalf, home of the 5-star technician.